I am actually pinching myself. Welcome to Backstage with Geoffrey Morrissey because I'm here with Matt and Brent from Elvi. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. And how's the day been going so far?
We woke up on a bus this morning in a parking lot, and then Brent went into the Holiday Inn gym for a short workout. I don't do that. How was it?
Boy, it was my first little workout in several weeks.
What's your routine?
I did some pull-ups, some dips, and some sit-ups.
Squats?
No squats. Wasn't enough time. I only had 15 minutes before I had a shower.
No time for squats.
No time for squats. That's all right. Well, it's more than I did today, so that's definitely great. So you guys are nearing the end of your big first national tour. We were talking about it a little bit whiles ago. So you guys said that you only had 2.5 days to rehearse?
We rehearsed, we rehearsed one song a bunch before we did the Return to the Moon. We rehearsed that a bunch before we did Couldn't, but then getting ready for the tour, yes, it was just a couple days, and a lot of that is because of living in different cities and stuff like that. We did it quickly. You and the rest of the guys, you and Matt and Andy rehearsed a lot before that.
A bit, yeah.
Yeah. But we whipped it into shape pretty fast. Mostly Brent did. I just sing along.
Boy, well, you do it very well, so that's for sure. But this has been in the works for like years, which is really cool. What made this the time to sort of like buckle down and do it? Because it seems like it's been a busy year for everyone. So what made this the priority?
Well, it's been in the works for like 5 years, and only the last year did we really get serious about it. So what was the question? Why did we choose now to do it? Is that
yeah,
I think part of it is like we had a little window. The national finished touring for Trouble Will Find Me, and you know, people were having kids and stuff, so we decided we were going to take a little bit of a longer break, and so that's when Brent and I are like, hey, this is a good little window for us to finish this record. We've known each other for 10 years, and started sharing music files about 5 years ago, but really did 80% of the work on writing and crafting this record starting about a year ago. And it was like because kind of a window opened up, and it was time.
Yeah, and I mean, when I first heard about how your process sort of works, it reminded me a lot of the Postal Service. So they did the same thing, sending the tapes through the mail and then editing it. But what do you think that sort of for lack of better words, choppiness, like over the time of, producing the record, since it's been 5 years, but 80% this year, did that have a distinct effect on the record, sort of the time in between? An effect on the final?
I think more just like, I think the way we approached it reflects our attitude toward making it, which was that we didn't really have any sort of fixed schedule that we were stressing out about. It was something that was that we played with in our spare time, and was just really fun to do. And I never actually thought we were going to finish the record until about a year ago, and then all of a sudden it seemed like it was actually going to crystallize into something concrete. So it was just like two friends just sharing ideas and building songs and just like doing it for the love of it. And then all of a sudden, like, I think No Time to Crank the Song, that song kind of came around, and then it seemed like, oh, we should really make a record. We should do this and finish it. So I got pretty excited because I love making records, and so I think like the fact that it's maybe choppy as you describe it just reflects that we had nobody to impress and nobody to disappoint. We were just doing it for ourselves, and when that's the vibe, then it just takes a lot of the stress away. And we the way we recorded it was like in our comfort zones, we didn't go to any fancy studios or anything like that. So it was just really, it was a blast, really.
I mean, part of the process of it, the fact that it was sort of like, when you say choppy, it was sort of like it would be stop-start. I would send him something, and he would send me something, but it would go on the back burner for a while, and it was all kind of through email. It was almost all through just sharing files for a long time. That actually that was part of the fun. Was that weeks or sometimes months would go by, and then all of a sudden I'd get an email from Brent or a link to a folder where he had worked on the songs a bunch. He'd had some time to work on the songs a bunch, so I'd get to open up these sort of things, these reinvented versions of the things that I'd sent him, and back and forth. So we were always sending these like time would pass, and then we'd get this surprise gift package of some new song ideas or new developments on the song. So it was always kind of this fun thrill to be somewhere, and all of a sudden whenever I got an email from Brent, I would always get so excited because like, oh, I bet there's and sure enough, there'd be a link to he would have reinvented one of the things we were tinkering around with, and it would always be, just really fun. I mean, like then I would tear it apart, and months would go by before I did work on it, and then send it back to him. And I think we were always kind of trying to surprise each other. I think so. That was a big part of the process, the distance, working, via over email and stuff like that, and apart from each other, weirdly fed some of the creative mojo for it in a strange way. And the fact that it was a slow process, and there was no schedule for it, was also a big part of the joy of it. It added to the joy.
Oh, definitely. And then what I'm interested in is I know that you guys both have bands before this. When did you first get your start with music? Not maybe like in terms of national fame, but just in general. What inspired you guys to jump in way back when?
I mean, I as a high school and college kid, I was obsessed with the Smiths, and I loved REM and all that kind of stuff. So I fell in love with it, but I didn't actually. It wasn't until I got to college, I met Scott Devendorf, and he had been in some high school bands, and a couple of guys I was in class with, that we were all in design class with, and we started this little band, and they let me sing on half the songs just because we were friends, and I couldn't play the guitar, I couldn't do anything else, so I really kind of snuck into music. At least, I mean, I've always been a big lover of it, but being able to do it myself, I kind of cheated my way in because I made my friends write songs so that I could sing to because I didn't know how to write any songs. That's how I got into it in college, and basically it's because Scott Devendorf was willing to just start a band with me. How about you?
My mom's a musician, so
nice.
Yeah. So there's always been a piano at my house, and so I did take lessons for a couple years when I was young, from age 5 to 10. So I kind of learned how to play the piano a little bit, but then I was never good at sight reading, and it stressed me out. So then I quit. But what I would love to do is play by ear. So I just started teaching myself how to play piano by ear. I call it sounding out songs, like hearing something on the radio, and then trying to play along, and then learning it that way. And I still do that to this day. I really can't read music to save my life, but. So that's probably how I got into piano, and then around when grunge hit, that's when I first got interested in guitar, so I got an electric guitar when I was 17, and played it wrong forever, and so slowly tried to get better at that. And,
what do you mean you played it wrong?
Well, I had it tuned wrong. I didn't know how to tune a guitar. So it was like the intervals were all wrong. I don't know how to describe it. It was just tuned funky. And so I was I didn't have a book or anyone to teach me how to do it. So I just was kind of piecing it together, figuring out how to do the chords. But I wasn't really in standard tuning. But later on, I started doing alternate tunings on purpose because they're really fun and inventive. And I did play French horn in middle school for a couple of years. And Matt, did you know I could play a little bit of the upright bass?
Ooh, I did not know that. Had I known that, we would not be having this band right now, because you can shuffle that jazz shit right down to the street where it belongs. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't know that. That's exciting. Why don't you pull it out? Well, Violent Femmes are one of my all-time favorites. So you should rock that out.
Well, I mean, it's sort of a segue into what I was going to ask you. I mean, when did you start writing? Because your songwriting is so refined that it seems like it must have been. Did that come before the music for you?
No. That came with the music. Yeah, I didn't do much of. Didn't have books of poetry or any kind of or even song lyrics or anything like that. It wasn't till that Scott and I started this college, but then I started thinking about writing lyrics, and I got instantly hooked by it, and kind of addicted to writing lyrics, and it was something I really worked hard on, even from the very beginning. to the point where actually it started to become very stressful, because all my heroes, songwriting heroes, were these amazing writers like Nick Cave and Leonard Cohen and Tom Waits, and I just those are very high bars, yeah. And so it was hard. It was really hard, so I used to, it's like it was a struggle to write lyrics. In the past 5 years or so, I've started to just enjoy that a lot more. And actually, when I started focusing more on melody, I'm starting to have a lot more fun. And then oddly, words come much easier because they just start a good melody, good words will start sticking to it. And I describe it like flypaper. Like it's like if the melody's good, the words will start to just happen really, really instantly. So that's how I write now. I always just sing first and free associate and don't worry about words and only focus on melody.
Well, I mean, yeah, and that's kind of one of the interesting things I noticed about your songwriting is that you always have, characters in the songs. They're not always, but a good amount of time. I know that the characters were more autobiographical this time, but was that a conscious choice that you sort of like went in knowing for different songs that you want to incorporate specific names or people?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't like a conscious, thought before. I mean, the whole sort of the characters in this thing kind of emerged while the writing was happening, and I started to see the connections, and I started to like embrace these connections, all the Cincinnati details. It wasn't like I was like, oh, I want to write a record that's kind of like a personal sort of story about a character in Cincinnati and falling in love with music and another person. It wasn't until the record was 3/4 of the way finished till I started really like saying, "Oh, look at to see what it's all about." And then I kind of would tweak it and work it towards that and allow those and kind of connect some of the dots through the craft of it and the writing, the refinement of it. But then I left plenty of it totally unconnected. It's not a fully. There is a narrative, but it's got lots of holes, and it's like kind of a patchwork narrative. And there's also a lot of things that are just don't have any connection at all to the other songs. So I let it be whatever kind of collage-y mess that it wants to be. Yeah.
I like that phrase, a collaging mess. And I promise this will be my last question about songwriting, then I'll back off. But you said that in an interview, sort of like that Elvi is more autobiographical, but not because of any certain special circumstance. Is there any reason maybe why that prevents you from being more autobiographical when you're writing with the National?
No, I think that was in the press release, and people keep asking me about it being more autobiographical, and I think it's because there's more specific detail that are like these real details about like places and neighborhoods in Cincinnati, and the Jockey Club, was a real place in Cincinnati, and Serpentine. All these little places and things are there, and I talk about my childhood a little bit. So there's more direct autobiographical detail, but it's no less personal than I think anything else I've written. I mean, I can't write unless I'm personally connected to something. So it's all the National records are very personal, and so is this one. So it's not. I don't find myself being unable to write very like autobiographically or very personally within the National. I do. Like I said, I can't write anything unless it's about me and it's personal. Yeah, I won't do it. Yeah.
And thank you so much for shutting the door there. I was about to get up and do it myself.
What was that? Ruckus. That's us. That's our sound engineer, Brandon, ringing out the PA. They call it, right? I don't know exactly what happens, but it does. So he plays that song really loud, and then he knows the PA is wrung out and warmed up. Anyway. Well,
the last band did that with a St. Vincent song. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, it always has some good music to
What
the
band was that?
The Districts.
The Districts.
From Philadelphia.
Cool.
We were here with them a couple weeks ago. But yeah, so you both have established bands, and they're kind of on peaks, or not peaks, but they're up there in terms of the pantheon. Was it more liberating or terrifying starting from scratch again with a new project?
It never entered my mind, really. Just like, to me, it was just like, this is great. I get to make a record with my friend Matt. That's as complicated as my thinking went. Like I said, like being free of because nobody was just expecting this record, so there's nobody to disappoint and nobody to impress. You know, it's just like, it was just a chance to work together, and I just did it for that. Like, I wasn't thinking in a careerist kind of way about it. Just like you know, whether it's going to be, you know, frightening to do this or exciting to do this. It just making the record itself was just gratifying enough for me. I don't know. How did you feel, Matt? Were you worried that I was going to tank your career?
I wasn't worried. I mean, I was like, I knew that this would be very, very likely and totally understandably might be people would look down their nose at it a little bit, because I mean, I get it. Side projects or these other you know, sometimes often are a little whatever, off-putting, and I like my bands to stay bands, and I like them to not to be moonlighting and doing other stuff. So I totally understand that, but I didn't care. Because I wanted to do it so bad, and yeah, it was definitely liberating to be able to like work on something that had no expectations, and so I think we both found that to be a nice part of it. That part of it, we didn't even know if we were going to actually put a record out, and that made it fun. And so this was a very it was an unfraught process. Mostly because it didn't even have to happen. It could have just, even at the last minute, we could have said like, yeah, let's not do it, and so the songwriting was just like, I didn't overthink. I don't actually overthink it in the National anymore either. I'm enjoying that too much more than I ever did. But I think a big part of why I enjoyed this so much is because nobody had any expectations for it. You know. I mean, I may have actually liked the challenge, the idea that like, oh, it's really hard to do a side project that's to pull it off. You know?
Yeah, that's right.
And I was like, I'm gonna give it a shot. And I and some people think we pulled it off, and some people don't. You know, I don't know, but I do. I feel so satisfied by this thing, and so proud of the record, and the shows have been going great. So it's been this incredibly great. Whatever, it just makes me like music more than ever, and it actually makes me like the National more than ever. I mean, those guys came to our show last night and they had a blast, and like they've known about this thing for a long time, and I think the fact that it's very different than National, they love that, and they totally get what I'm doing, because they know my real personality, and they know that my real personality inside the National isn't really an accurate portrayal of a person, you know. But we all kind of like that I have this demeanor and this sort of this brand within the National or whatever. And I know they were a little nervous about me ruining that, but they came last night and they love the record, and then they saw the show and they get it. They get what I'm doing. They always have been super supportive of it. But I think weirdly this project has made everybody in the National even closer and more excited about our next record and all the stuff that they're doing. Bryce is doing all kinds of stuff. Aaron's doing all. It's so it's all been a really good vibe, healthy thing for not only inside Elvi but also inside National. And I'm not going to put words in Brent's mouth, but I think you have a better relationship with the Phenomena guys now than you ever did, right?
Yeah. I think we're closer friends now than we've been for years, and yeah, so I'm thankful for that too.
Yeah, well, it seems like a win-win for everyone, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But you both have launched bands before the advent of social media, and now you're starting to launch them after social media is sort of
after the death of social media. We're actually killing social media. We're leading the death of social media through our Facebook postings. No, sorry. I didn't let you ask your question.
No, don't worry. Trust me, I prefer the...
I thought I had an interesting answer. It turns out I was wrong. Go ahead.
You very well could.
Let's see.
Was it harder to launch a band with social media or without it?
Well, I will say this, going back with the National, if it weren't for, and this isn't necessarily social media, I don't know, but blogs and the internet and all that kind of stuff, and music forums are how the National found an audience. You know, these little pockets of people listening to because we didn't really get much radio exposure or magazine exposure or anything like that kind of stuff. It was just friends telling friends on blogs or sending playlists. So all that internet, you know, the way people were sharing music is how the National became the National in a weird way. So, and then now all the social media stuff and Instagram and the postings and the connecting with fans is something that has evolved, and I think I've always been very behind on all that kind of stuff.
I was going to say, neither of you have personal profiles, or at least public personal
No, neither
profiles.
of us have personal Facebook pages. But Elvi has his Facebook presence, and I was given an app that allows me to post live, unedited stuff at any moment. Facebook mentions, which is the most dangerous thing I've ever been given, and but it's been kind of fun. It's been kind of a blast to sort of like try to reach out and talk to fans in a funny, different ways, and I don't know. I mean, it could ruin our career any second, but so far we've been having fun with it. Have you been? I mean, me more so than you.
Yeah.
And
so far, you've been having fun with it.
Brent's been trolling the whole process. Yeah. So, yeah, but that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know how to do it very well, or all the social media stuff, and it's not something I think too much about. But I can see how it can really have an impact on your relationship with your fans and stuff in a really good way. Yeah. So.
Well, I know that you started the Instagram account. So with the Instagram account, a hallmark of that is the selfie. Have you mastered the selfie yet, do you think?
Didn't you like clip like a GoPro to your surfing board?
Yeah, I've been doing that. I know. Once you can start attaching cameras to yourself, to your bike or your surfboard, or just, you know, at any moment you can just. It's dangerous to give something like that to a narcissist, which is what I am, and but I've been having a blast with it. Yeah, I mean. It's just silly. It's like, and my brother's a filmmaker, and I'm fine with people kind of seeing behind the curtain, you know, because he made a documentary which is like way behind the curtain, you know.
It was a very good documentary too.
And so I'm like, you know, my wife's in that movie, and you know, my brother shows more of himself. You know, his vulnerable side, and I'm really inspired by that, and so I'm totally comfortable humiliating myself with the use of TV, film, and media. Yeah, it's my thing.
Well, it's a good perspective to have. So you guys have been on the bus a lot, you know, or on the road touring. If you could have one person in the tour bus with you, or one person in the plane, living or dead, it doesn't have to be like a sentimental answer like your wife or your parents, who would that be for you? You could each have different answers too.
I would pick Brent's parents.
Cool people?
And Brent would pick my wife. No, that's a good question. Who would it be? Who would it be? You know what? Here's who it would be. Ural Thomas.
That's a good answer. Matt, maybe you should explain who Ural Thomas is.
Ural Thomas is a soul singer from Portland who sings on our record, and but that's actually not why. I mean, we would probably have him sing every night with us too, because he's such an incredible singer. But the guy's vibe is like, he is one of these guys that just like has such a zen happiness and a sweetness and a lightness in his everything about him. You know him better than I do, but every time he's in the room, I'm like, oh yeah, like life is kind of nice. There's no reason to be so angsty and worked up. How would you describe Ural?
Yeah, I met Ural when we were working on the Elvi record. We were looking to add backing vocals, and I ended up working with him, and it was a dream. He's 73 years old. He's this kind of like legend of soul music in Portland, and it's true. Like, he's like this prism of beauty. You know, it's like you just feel like the good things and the bad things in life suddenly make more sense. You know, and when he's on stage, it's like there's an effortless musicality to his presence and his. And I just feel he's one of those people that feels like, you know, the Pierian spring of music and creativity. He's an angel as far as I'm concerned. So I love working with that guy.
We met Emma Stone last night. She'd be fun to have around too.
That's very cool.
I didn't meet her. Yeah, no, I noticed you didn't introduce us. Thanks, man.
Oh, I didn't introduce her. I didn't.
And there is the tension. There we go. All right, so then this will be one of my last questions. If you guys could take a song from the pantheon of songs and claim it as your own, what song would it be for, and again, each of you can have different answers.
Wait, say it again. Ask it again.
I mean, did you notice that I didn't get a chance to say who I wanted on the bus that matched?
Oh, you didn't?
okay.
I chose
Fair
both
enough.
people. I chose Ural Thomas, Emma Stone are going to be down by my end of the bus. Who's up at your end?
No, I mean, the 2 spots have been taken. It's like, all the wishes from the genie.
All right, fine. We'll kick off Ural.
We're kicking the 73-year-old man to the dust.
We're kicking
because lead singers can be assholes sometimes.
Because Emma needs a bunk. Who are you going to pick?
I was going to pick June Jordan. She was a poet and professor, and my hero. And I never got to meet her. She passed away of breast cancer. But I would love to sit down with June Jordan someday.
You just made me sound like such an asshole. Thank you, Brent.
Well, what are friends for? So again, if you guys could just take a song from anyone, who do you think it would be?
Take a song from anyone.
Steal it. Like, you can, let's say, for example, you can release Let It Be, and it's an Elvis song, and the world only knows it as that.
Wow. I think I know what Brent would take. I would probably, I don't know, I'd maybe take A Day in the Life.
That's a good one.
What would you take?
Oof, that's a tough one. In terms of, I'd probably take This Must Be the Place, Naive Melody by Talking Heads. I was going to say.
I knew it. That's you were going to say the same song? Wow, you guys both said the same. I'd also, I might take a Famous Blue Raincoat by Leonard Cohen too. That's kind of like a novel all in one song. But good choices, I think.
Another choice would be God Only Knows by Beach Boys. There's something magical about that one, too.
Yeah. In Dreams by Roy Orbison might be another one. How many are we allowed to take? How many people are allowed on the bus? We had to kick Ural off to make room for Emma. And I'm going to kick the Beatles off and get Leonard Cohen in on our playlist if we only have one to pick from. But you said we were allowed to have more.
Oh, yeah.
All right, leave them all in. Leave them all in the bus. Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, this will be my actual last question. Who has your ear right now? Who are you guys listening to?
The War on Drugs.
They're good.
Mostly just Matt talking forever.
Brent's a big fan of my spoken word record that I've been working on in the bus, and it's long. Mm-hmm. And it's not interesting, but it doesn't.
Spoken word records
doesn't have a great Brent.
That's gonna be my next question. What's up with the bracelet?
Yeah, what's up with that, Brent? It's part of my experiment to see how long it takes Brent before he jumps off the bus while it's going down the highway while I record my spoken word album.
Well, I hope that you guys can make it off this bus alive and with as many people left on the bus as possible. And thank you so much for chatting with us, and have a great one.
Thanks, ma'am.
Thanks.